Hi, welcome to the Selfish Griever podcast. Today's episode is about memorial tattoos, and I thought of this topic because a lot of people consider getting a tattoo for the first time after the loss of a loved one. And I think it's important to be informed. So I asked my good friend, LA tattoo artist Huka Lewis, who's tattooed celebrities and regular Joes, to come on the show today and share her top tips for you to get the best memorial tattoo honoring your loved one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a review letting me know your favorite part, and rating the show also really helps it get found by other listeners like you. If you'd like to help support the show, you can click the link in the show notes to go to my Patreon page and become a monthly supporter. It includes some great perks for different level supporters, and my favorite one is a live Q&A with me twice a month. And now let's get to the show, and I'll let Huka introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Huka. I'm a tattoo artist in LA. I've been a tattoo artist for, 15 or 16 years. And I've known Whitney since I was 18.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Selfish Griever podcast. I'm the host, Whitney Semerano. This is a podcast for grieving parents looking for spiritual support on their grief journey as they find their purpose after loss. We're a community for grievers discussing all aspects of the grief journey, connecting with your deceased child, and spirituality. I've been a grieving mom since June 2020 when my firstborn twin son, Orion, died in an accident when he was 2 years old. Here on this podcast, you'll hear interviews with grievers on similar paths and experts in spirituality. Welcome to the Selfish Griever community. Welcome to the Selfish Griever. As you heard in the intro, today I have tattoo artist Huka Lewis, and I'm excited to have her on the podcast today because although this isn't anything about spirituality, I do think it's something that comes up very commonly for people, especially now with grief, because tattoos have become more and more mainstream. And I'm not sure that I hear enough people talk about memorial tattoos, and if you've never gotten a tattoo before, what you should be looking for or expecting. So I really think this is going to be some value for the listeners today. And also, it's going to be a fun episode because, like Huka said, she and I have known each other for a really long time. It's just old friends chatting and catching up. And so, Huka, to start, I would be so interested to hear your version of events as to how we met.
Okay, so how we met. I was 18. My parents had passed away not that long before, like maybe 2 years before that. So I was kind of lost, doing a bunch of probably not the greatest stuff ever. But someone I knew was from Yuma, and I dropped out of college and I moved there. And what happened was my friend knew your mom, and I needed somewhere to stay. So I kind of just showed up on your mom's porch and was like, "Hi, I'm Huka. My friend said you're a nice lady and you're gonna let me stay with you." And your mom, being the saint of a woman that she is, didn't even know me or anything. It was just like, "Yeah, I have an extra room. You can stay here." And you were out of the country, doing abroad things, and you showed up, and then I was just living in your house.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly if you were already living there by the time I moved back or not. I'll make sure and post a picture of Huka, but for listeners or maybe any of Huka's fan base, Huka did not look the way she looks now. She did have blonde hair. She was always the same height, tall, Scandinavian looking, model.
Oh, thank you.
But she had way less tattoos, more, I guess, natural skin, if that's how you call it. And she used to do her makeup and hair like 1950s pinup is what I would describe it as the way I remember, and I guess maybe you're lucky, but I really wish that there were iPhones back then, selfies,
I
because
don't.
I don't have any pictures of what
Uh,
Huka looked like back then to be able to, it's all just in my head, fond memories. And I think one of my maybe the biggest changes, because I follow you on Instagram, you have great content. It's always very entertaining. But I remember when I met you, you wouldn't even wear a bikini to like the beach in front of us. You told us we had to pay you money if we wanted to see you without your top on. And
right?
now you post stuff on Instagram that's
Oh, I'm
like,
scandalous.
yeah.
Scandalous about it. And
So there's been a lot of growth and change since we first knew each other a long time ago.
yeah, I think, well, I was like a teenager still. I was insecure and weird about things. And I think around the time like you hit 30, it doesn't matter so much anymore. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still doing stuff to look hot and whatnot, but I'm very confident about what I look like and what I have to offer. And if you don't like it, I don't really care anymore. So it's
Gotcha.
fine.
Well, and something else that, obviously has changed a lot is our stories with grief. And to be honest, when I think back, I really was so naive. I didn't understand anything about grief. I don't even think that I realized, honestly, until you said right now that your parents passing away had been so like close in time, especially comparative to now. Orion died 2 years and 7 months ago. So, right in kind of the same time period from when you're talking about, that your parents passed away and you first met me. And I don't know, I don't think I asked very many questions because I didn't know much about grief and I didn't feel comfortable with it. And I
Right.
don't remember you making, not a big deal is not the right word, but I think you kind of kept it under wraps too, which is totally understandable, back then and even now, but wasn't something you wanted to, talk about all the time. But I definitely didn't, I don't know, I didn't like look at you and see a grieving person. I think you either hit it really well or were, trying to stay focused on other things. I'm not really sure. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it wasn't that I was hiding it. It was just, I'm very much like a realist in terms of things. And so, I mean, I was still sad and devastated. Like, I still get sad now. And my parents have been dead longer than they were alive, longer than I've had them. And I still get sad about it sometimes. But I guess back then, like, I was so, I was just trying to stay focused because I was also like starting my tattoo career and as a tattoo apprentice. So I had something else to like motivate me
Yeah.
rather than just like sit around and wallow in it.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier.
Yeah. And can you share a little bit about how your parents passed away and how old exactly you were when that happened?
So my mom died from heart disease. She just died in her sleep one night randomly when I was 15. Just, we didn't have any, like, there was no warning signs or anything like that. She just didn't wake up. And then the month after she died, my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and then he died like 8 months later. And my 16th birthday was in the middle of them.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know like those kinds of details and stuff. I think when you're not familiar with grief, it just feels uncomfortable. You're
Yeah, people don't want to talk about it because they don't know what to say and they don't want to make things worse. Even
Yeah.
now, people are like, when it comes up, their first instinct is to panic and retreat a little bit. And then I have to be like, no, it's okay. They were lovely people, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. And switching gears a bit, do you remember where you were when you heard about Orion
I
dying?
was in my kitchen and I just started to cry. And my sister came running in because she could hear me crying. And I just,
Was I the one who told you? I don't
no, I
remember.
talked to your dad.
Wow, my dad called you?
Yeah, your dad called me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, that was definitely there's so much going on. I'm sure you can relate, from when probably first when your mom passed away, because I imagine that that was really traumatic. when it was unexpected, like Orion's accident was unexpected.
Yeah, like there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens when something like that happens, and then stuff continues to happen for like weeks, months afterwards that you have to deal with. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like having someone pick out a scab or something.
yeah. And so how old were you when you got your first tattoo?
16, because I was a juvenile delinquent.
And was your first tattoo a memorial tattoo?
Yeah, it's my parents' names with a quote.
Wow. Where is it?
It's on my wrist, so it's a good thing I became a tattooer because there's no covering that or hiding it.
And also, for keeping frame of reference, when you were 16, tattoos were not mainstream like they are now. I mean, was it some seedy tattoo shop where you had to like take in a fake ID to get away with even
Okay,
getting one?
well, I'm resourceful, so I made a fake ID, and it was in Las Vegas, which that fool knew I wasn't old enough to get a tattoo and didn't really care. He just wanted money.
So seedy.
Yeah, because the tattoo shop that I got tattooed at, like now, they're like a chain and they're not respected in the industry at all. Like it's also a smoke shop, if that tells you what kind of establishment it is. You can buy
Well,
a bong
actually,
and a tattoo.
for the unindoctrinated, what does that mean? Like, why is that so offensive to you as a tattoo artist? Can you explain a little to the audience?
You shouldn't be doing multiple things in the tattoo shop unless it's piercing. Like you shouldn't be getting your hair cut and a tattoo. You shouldn't be selling bongs and a tattoo. You should just be getting tattoos and piercings for a multitude of reasons. One, if you have to have all that other stuff, it means your tattoo business isn't successful, and it's probably because you're doing bad tattoos. Two, it's not super like hygienic. Like if
Yeah.
I've seen a barbershop tattoo thing, no, there's hair flying around. It's disgusting.
Yeah, hygiene I think is really important, and I don't know if everybody thinks about that, but a tattoo really is breaking the skin, exposing, your body to pathogens and whatnot. Not to mention sanitization when, a needle is injecting, under that top 1 or 2 layers of your dermis. So
A
there's
tattoo is
blood
just
involved
it's a
and all
controlled
kinds.
wound.
Yeah.
That's what a tattoo is. It's a controlled wound.
What about, as I recall, don't you have tattoos on the top of your feet that are memorial tattoos?
No, I have one on my foot that's for Nikki.
Okay. Do you have any other memorial tattoos besides the one on your wrist?
Well, I mean, I have a tattoo for Orion
Where's that one?
on my leg. It's just like a little constellation of Orion's belt with like a little extra glowing star.
That's sweet. When did you get that one?
Probably
Remember?
a year ago.
And to be clear, I don't get the impression that memorial tattoos are like your personal specialty. What's your specialty for tattooing?
They are not. I mean, my specialty is color and like illustrations or cover ups. If it's color, anything, I can pretty much do it. I don't really do black and gray.
Gotcha. And that's an important distinction, right? When you're
Looking for an artist.
right. Or even what about if you don't know anything about tattoos and you're just thinking up an idea? How important is it to consider whether you should get color or black and white or black and gray?
That's kind of more of a color of black and gray is more of a personal preference than anything else.
Okay, so there is no difference as far as like staying power in terms of like vibrancy or
No, because if you just
out.
take care of your skin like you're supposed to and wear sunblock, it's not a problem. Everyone, I hear that all the time because I do so many color tattoos about people don't like them because they fade. It's because you don't wear sunblock. Black and gray tattoos fade too. It's just different. Just put sunblock on. You don't want skin cancer anyways. Just put it on.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And if they're, thinking up a concept, what would you say are some, I guess, do's and don'ts?
Okay, so I feel like lots of people first instinct is to get a portrait. I don't like it. Is this personally, I just one, all tattoos are going to fade and age differently over time, and portraits rely on a lot of heavy detail, so you're more likely to need to touch up on a portrait. But mostly the reason why is because I think it almost eliminates your ability to talk about who the tattoo is for. I always tell people, like I told you this, if you're going to get a tattoo, get something that reminds you of the person, something that makes you think about them. One, so then you have a picture, and if somebody asks about it, if you're in the mood, you get to talk about your person then, which is always nice. Like, I love talking about my parents. They were wonderful. Like, that's how I keep, so other people know about them and I keep them alive. But if you're not in the mood, then you don't have to explain to them why you have a hummingbird or whatever, which is a lot easier to write off than saying, like, I don't want to talk about why I have this face on my arm. You just make up a story if you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. For me personally, do you remember when I first contacted you about the memorial tattoo that I had you do for Orion?
No.
I think it was just a few months. I got the tattoo. Orion passed away in June of 2020, and I got the tattoo in August of 2020 when you did a guest spot in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
Because California was on lockdown, so you were
That's
migrating services to try and get some business. So I did it fairly quickly afterwards. And I also didn't spend a lot of time thinking about what I wanted. I was pretty certain right from the get-go that I wanted a hummingbird. I wanted it to be a watercolor design for like an ethereal feel, that it wasn't this hard outline.
Right.
And I swear I saw a quote somewhere, but I kid you not, I have searched and I've never been able to find it again. I've never been able to find it on Google or any accreditation to it, but it was, they're not gone, just beyond this time and place. And so I had you add the word beyond in a vertical next to the hummingbird. And for me, that was, the hummingbird is my sign from Orion that I get all the time. And the first one I ever saw from him was at his wake, which at the time I didn't realize was a sign. But as I learned more and thought back, it was so obvious. And then the word beyond, because it just for me was a friendly reminder that he's not gone. He's with me all the time. But I've definitely, immediately thereafter, when I still wasn't comfortable talking to strangers or even like acquaintances about Orion, if somebody would say something about my tattoo, I would just say, thanks. It means a lot to me. Or thanks, I really like it. And now it is a conversation starter. And so also let's talk about placement. What are maybe the top 3 and the worst 3 places to get a tattoo?
I guess part of it depends on if you want to be able to see it or not. Because if you want to be able to see it, you're kind of limited. You got to put it somewhere basically like on your lower arm or your lower legs.
Yeah, I definitely thought about, I chose my wrist. Well, for one, I mean, you can speak to this. I'm a fairly, I feel like, conservative person. I come from a pretty conservative background. I'm not edgy by any means.
No.
When I decided that I wanted to get a tattoo for Orion, I do remember being like, I don't care what anyone else thinks about me having a tattoo on my wrist. And prior to that, I would have worried about what, people would have thought, or if I, could always get a job, or if that was going to be an issue in the future and things like that, which again, like I said, I think tattoos are becoming more mainstream, and that's becoming less of a concern, maybe not in every industry, but in a lot of
people
them.
Don't care anymore.
Yeah.
They don't care.
But my first tattoos, my first tattoo was when I was 18 at a tattoo shop in Mission Beach. Yeah. Which was it was a horrible experience. And that was purposely placed somewhere on the back of my shoulder because then it would be easy to hide. And then my next tattoo, which was huge, is also on my like thigh and hip, again, because it would be something that would be easy to hide. And a lot of people don't even know that I have that tattoo, because unless they see me wearing shorts, they wouldn't have any idea.
Yeah.
So my wrist was definitely a different perspective, a whole different, mindset around it. But where are maybe the 3 worst places to get a tattoo on your body?
In terms of what, pain or?
I mean, I guess if you want to say the 3 most painful and the 3, places that maybe fade the most.
Well, ribs are really painful. Don't get your first tattoo there. It makes us upset as tattoo artists when you do that, because you're going to squirm around because you're not ready, and then it makes us want to murder you. Ribs, stomach, the top of your feet hurt really bad. spots that are easy to get tattooed, though, it's like your arms, your shoulder blade, parts of your leg. The fading thing isn't so bad. If, like I said, you put sunblock on.
Okay. I've heard that like on your like tattoos on your feet don't do very well because especially
It's
if it's
only on the
like
sides.
ankle. Yeah. Okay. Ankle and along the side of your foot because you're just shedding so much skin there, right?
Yeah,
From
it's
walking
just,
and shoe
yeah,
wear.
you can see on the side of your feet where your skin changes to like the kind of skin you have on the bottom of your foot.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of skin. So like your hands and stuff, they don't do very well. Fingers.
Gotcha. And so maybe what's the most important part that we haven't really addressed yet is how do you find the tattoo artist you want to go to and what is it that you should be looking for when you're searching around?
Well, rule number one, don't get tattooed in the tourist street of any city. So like here in Los Angeles, you don't get tattooed on Hollywood Boulevard. You don't get tattooed on Venice Boulevard. Vegas, you don't get tattooed on the Strip. Stuff like that. You're never going to find quality tattoo artists at those places. The other thing is tattooing, you pretty much get what you pay for. So if someone's telling you that this thing is really cheap, there's a reason for that. Like it's probably because it's going to look really cheap. And if
And
you're going to
what's
spend
really
money,
cheap? Like a dollar amount.
I charge $200 an hour.
How long? I mean, I know it depends on the intricacy of the tattoo, but like if
Say,
someone's asking you how much you can get done in an hour, how big a tattoo you can do in an hour,
yeah,
for
it
someone who
just,
doesn't know.
you're right. It depends on what the tattoo is, but like you could probably get something like palm size done in an hour, depending on what it is, if it's not super crazy.
Okay, so maybe like the size of, I don't know, like a
Like a
tennis
four
ball
by
circle
four,
or something.
four by
Yeah.
4 inch square, something like that.
Okay. And the same is true whether it's color or black and white?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
The thing is you have to decide kind of what style of tattooing you want. So do a little research, look at them because they come in different styles: traditional, neo-traditional, watercolor, realistic. And then you can use this website called Tattoodo.
How do you spell that?
It's tattoo with DO at the end. You can use this website because it'll let you search by like black and gray, realism in the area that you're in. So you can find artists. Otherwise, I would just like use Yelp and then start looking at all of the Instagrams for whoever comes up and try to find somebody who tattoos in the style you want and in the color. Like don't go find somebody who does black and gray and ask them for a color tattoo.
Gotcha.
Or like if you want a portrait, find somebody who only does portraits, basically. Like if you're going to get a portrait, you have to get it done from a portrait specialist. Everything else people can generally get away with, but if portraits, that needs to be all that they do.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so when you're talking about style, I mean, for me, like I don't consider myself an artist. If you had to, I mean, obviously watercolor is pretty straightforward what that is, but otherwise, I mean, when you're say looking at searching for the style you want, that really could just simply mean that you're looking at a lot of artist portfolios and whoever has like the most tattoos that you like examples, right? I mean, that means you like their style, even if you don't know if that means like,
right, what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be a super technical process, but it does take intention and thought if you want to get a quality tattoo, right?
Yes.
And it's also an investment. So talk about if you're thinking you're ready and you've picked out the artists that you want to go to, and I'm assuming that we're just going to go off the assumption they're high caliber. So they're sought after. What's a reasonable expectation as far as like how far out they're going to get booked?
That just depends on the artist. Some artists book until their books close. So they'll just like book for like 3 months at a time. And then you have to wait till their books open again. Some artists only book like 2 weeks out. But what's going to happen is all the tattoo artists I know, they don't DM them on Instagram. We don't enjoy that. It makes it easy for us to lose the contact information because we can't remember people's handles. So most of them will have like an email link or something on their page that says inquiries and whatnot. And they might have a list of things that they want you to send them in the email. But normally you just tell them like what you're looking for, describe it. If you have any reference pictures, you send that to. Other things to include are like the spot on the body where it's going, roughly how big you want it, things like that.
And then you ask them for a quote. Like, is that appropriate?
You can ask for a quote. Yeah.
Okay. And this may be controversial. I don't know how you're going to feel about this question, but I'm just going to be honest. What about if you find an artist that you're super excited about their art, you love what they post, you reach out and they're total dick? Like, is it worth still working with them because you like the art, or should you just keep looking because there's probably going to be another artist out there?
No, there will be somebody else who can do it.
Okay.
Don't get tattooed by people like that, because even if you like the tattoo, then it's almost tainted by having a shitty experience in the shop.
Yeah, because like my first tattoo, the guy was a total jerk. Now, obviously, I already violated one of your rules because I was like in Mission Beach on, I think, Garnett or something. So it wasn't.
You went to one.
Yeah, I went to one of the tourist places, and the guy was a total jerk, and he pressured me to get, different than what I wanted. And I was young, so, that probably played into it, but it was not a pleasant experience. He made me nervous the whole time and was like, don't move or this is going to be messed up. He added stuff to the tattoo that I didn't know, like he didn't mention beforehand. And then he was like, well, didn't you see that in all my portfolio pictures? Which I did, but I was like unaware that meant that was a style applied across the board. So can you talk a little bit about
the power of the word no? Like, you can tell tattooists no.
Yeah, but I was going to talk about kind of like, I feel like there's some artists out there who feel some sense of entitlement because it's their art, even though it's not their body.
It's less prominent now because tattooing is really oversaturated, but it definitely was notorious for tattooers having diva personalities for a long time. Like, they were a gift to the art and tattooing world.
Okay, so it's not as prevalent. I mean, it's other than you, it's been a long time since I've gotten a tattoo, so it's changed.
Yeah, because there's so many tattooers. Like, you better be the top 5% in the world if you're gonna act like that now.
Okay, yeah. And would you say that like those reality TV shows about tattooing, are those a fairly accurate representation of what it's going to be like when you go into a shop and get tattooed?
Well, no, because like Ink Master stuff doesn't take place at a shop, and they have time constraints on everything. Like,
well, I was thinking more, not the competitive ones. I was thinking more about like those reality shows where they talk about like tattoo cover-ups. Whole specialty is doing cover-ups, and then they make them something beautiful and they, cover them like coming into the shop and stuff like that.
They should be personable and like ask you questions about what you're getting and why, because also that helps inform us on as to the drawing and like how to make decisions. Because a lot of time I get people who come in and they know they want a tattoo, but they don't really, like, it hasn't been fleshed out in their mind. So I ask them like, well, what kind of stuff do you like? Or what's your favorite color? Or what does this make you think about? So that if there's like gaps in the design, I have information from them that I could potentially use to help fill it out.
So it can be collaborative in nature. Yeah. Like you come with an idea and they help. Okay.
They all should be. No one should just be telling you what the fuck you're going to get. The only time that ever happens is if you're getting a cover up, because it's a cover up first. So like probably what you want may not work. So you're really limited, like, as to what will cover whatever it is you have. So,
but also the reverse, that like if someone came into you with this tattoo idea and they were like, I want this, I'm just making something up, dragon wrapping around the moon, and I want it to be in a 3x3 square. Like, you're going to advise them, right? Like, that's probably a little too intricate to fit in a tiny...
An ethical tattooer should do that. Yeah, because also it's a representation of our work. So they should care enough that you're going to leave there and tell people that they did the tattoo. So they should want it to look nice. That's the other reason why you don't go to those shops that are on like Hollywood Boulevard or anything, because they're never planning to see anyone again, because it's a tourist spot. So they don't care about things like that, because they're never going to see you again. They don't care if it looks like shit as soon as you leave.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they're just like churning people in and out, and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Okay.
So then if you're someone coming with a concept and the tattoo artist gives you feedback, that's not, them telling you they don't like your idea. That's them trying to help you improve so that you can get the best end result possible
Right.
with
I
what you
literally,
want.
I just had this conversation with people because I do a bunch of inappropriate tattoos. So I
Mm-hmm.
get a bunch of flack back from people being like, why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Because I don't do like gang tattoos or like racist tattoos or homophobic tattoos. But other than that, my job is just to give the client the best version of whatever it is they ask for.
Right.
Like they're going to wear it, not me. So I'll give you suggestions and everything. But ultimately, like, it's your tattoo. And if I really think it's going to be that, I don't know, impactful to your life or something, I'll just tell you I'm not going to do the tattoo at all. Like, I'm not the right artist for you.
We've got some scruples.
I would hope so after this long. I don't.
And to be clear, like when you say inappropriate, you're talking about sexually inappropriate tattoos or
Yeah,
your
I
like
mean,
forte. Just for listeners who haven't seen, you
yeah,
can go look at her Instagram. They're openly posted all over. She's not being, ambiguous about what she does. And that's fine. You serve a niche market that is interested in that. I don't think there's
yeah.
anything
Like
wrong with
if you
that.
like it, cool. If you don't, stay away from my page.
Yeah, exactly. So Huka, can you describe what like happens or what it's like when a brand new client you've never, met in person before comes into your shop to get a tattoo? Like I just want to hear from your perspective, kind of the steps that happen in that first interaction.
Okay, well, if they're say you walked in off the street, I'm going to talk to you about design. You're either going to schedule a consult or we're going to do one right then.
Okay. And do you charge for
Basically,
consults?
no, consults are free.
Okay.
We just get together, we sit there, we talk about what you want, we look at some stuff, we look at the space that you're trying to put it, talk about things, we talk about color and price and all of this, and then either we'll do it right then or we give you an appointment date. Like 98% of tattoo artists require a deposit. Typically the deposit comes off the price of the tattoo, but it's how we hold your spot to make sure people aren't just wasting our time. And normally the rule is if you cancel or no show, you do not get the deposit back because we set aside time for you. A lot of times we'll let you reschedule with like 24 hours notice. But if you cancel last minute, you forfeit that deposit. It's just what's fair because it's time. Time is money. We're setting aside time for you. Most tattooers, the other thing is we don't send you the drawings ahead of time. You get to come in the day of the appointment and look at it, and we'll typically make changes because if we did the consult right, there shouldn't be that many changes to make. But we don't send them out ahead of time because what I found is that it gives people too much time to do weird shit and like stare at it for too long and then send it to like every member of their family and get their input and like post it on a billboard and ask people what they think. And they just do wild shit that isn't good for anybody. So I
Gotcha.
don't send them. We don't send them out anymore. You get to look at it when you come in, which is also like a testament that you should be picking your artist carefully.
And so to be clear again, because we're talking, imagining that the person listening right now doesn't know anything about tattoos. If I bring you, like the hummingbird, I brought you a picture of a hummingbird that was like what I was looking for, but that's not just you like sitting down with that and tracing it out to match exactly what that was, right? Like it's you doing the drawing to be
Using a
similar, but it's
right.
you rendering your own. I mean, there's effort that goes in on your end, even if somebody's bringing in something that's like, this is exactly what I want, do it exactly like this. Like, it's not like
Right.
you just, I don't know, photocopy
Not
it and
unless you
stick it
wanted
on
like a hyper realistic picture, in which case we take the actual picture and we just duplicate it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then they come back for the appointment, and then what happens?
Well, you make sure everything, you're going to fill out a waiver.
Okay.
You have to have an ID, government issued ID. Yeah, you fill out paperwork and then like we'll make a stencil. We put the stencil on. You get to look at it, make sure it's how you want it. It's in the right spot. That's a good time to be picky. So like if it's off a little bit or you want it tilted, tell the artist, make them move it. That's why we give you stencil and we don't just go for it all willy-nilly.
And a stencil, to be clear, is like an ink transfer, kind of like a carbon copy print, right? For
Yeah.
somebody who hasn't had it before, that
Yeah.
they put on your skin, and it's like a drawing that then they follow that
Exactly.
template.
Yeah.
And will the template always look as detailed as the end product?
That just depends on the tattooer. Sometimes it can look more detailed, sometimes it can look less.
Okay. But so if somebody gets a template put on them and they're like, that it doesn't have all the lines that the original, draw, or maybe
It
lines isn't the right
should,
word.
and if it's not, then they should be telling you why they're not putting it in there. Like maybe sometimes when I make one, I'll leave a line out because I've realized it's too close to another line and it's going to smash together.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So then after stencil's been approved, they've gotten up, looked at it in a mirror and stuff, then describe what happens next.
Well, the artist will just start the tattoo. The thing is, like, be prepared. So wear appropriate clothing so that's easy for the artist to reach the tattoo. And to make sure you eat. I had a guy pass out on me twice this weekend at the tattoo convention. Twice, same guy, like 10 minutes apart. I had to catch a giant man from falling out of my chair twice.
Hey, but for the listener, I just want to, reassure you that's not so shocking. I almost fainted when you did my hummingbird tattoo, and I had eaten lunch that day, but I think the appointment was at like 4 and we were going to go grab dinner afterwards. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, I've eaten today, but I hadn't eaten right before the appointment. And also in my mind, like I have a very large tattoo on my leg that I didn't faint for. Granted, I was laying down, so it was totally different. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is just a small, my hummingbird tattoo is, I don't know, maybe 3 inches tall and then like the width of my wrist. So in my mind, I was like, it's a small tattoo. It's not going to be a big deal. Like we're going to be in and out of there in like 20 minutes. And it was, my body had this physical reaction that I couldn't
It
control.
happens sometimes.
And I remember telling you like, Huka, I don't feel so good. And you were like, did you eat? Are you going to faint? And then all of a sudden, because it was the end of the day, so there was nobody else at that point getting tattooed in the shop. And the other artists like rushed to me and they brought me like a little thing of water and I think a trail mix or something.
Yeah, because it happens. A lot of shops, we have snacks for this very reason. And also all of us are on pass out person awareness all the time. It's like a secret setting we have where if we hear something or we hear a certain sound, we know and we go help the homie put the person back in the chair.
Yeah, to be clear, I didn't fall out of my chair, but I was not feeling well. And then I remember, I think I said something like, I'm feeling really dizzy. And also like you just took a break then. Like you stopped tattooing and gave me a second. And that was, you weren't like mad at me or anything. I also remember thinking that even though I know you so well, I was sitting there thinking like, Whitney, don't be a wimp. Don't complain about this. Like it's a tiny little tattoo and Huka's going to be like, come on, Whitney, you sit crappy, sit better.
No.
Because that's the thing, right? Like what does that mean when you say someone doesn't sit well, what does that mean?
It means they just can't hold still, like they're fidgety, or it's normally that they're fidgety and they're doing weird stuff. And the thing you have to remember is like, if you move any part of your body, it causes like a little chain reaction to the other part. So like a big thing is people who talk with their hands. I could be tattooing your right forearm, but if you're doing shit waving around with your left one, it makes the rest of your body move.
Okay. So sometimes even it means you just need to be quiet and sit still.
Yeah, like just
depending
try to hold
on the
still.
kind of talker you
Yeah,
are.
think about something else. Whatever you got to do. Like I have clients who just like watch TV on their phone. I have one who reads a book. I have another one who just has like the most minimal fidget spinner and uses that.
I think I listened to music one session and then I think I read a book another session. So yeah, when we talk about sessions, that's something else. So if they're getting a large piece, sometimes that means it warrants multiple sessions, right? That they have to come back again.
Yeah. Typically, it's only for really big tattoos, or if it's small and you just have a low pain tolerance and you have a nice tattooer, we'll break it up into smaller sessions for you.
What's like a standard, I guess, session?
It depends on how big the tattoo is. I would say like 2 to 4 hours.
And then if they end up having something that takes longer than 4 hours and they and the artist agree to break it up, then what's the like lapse time between sessions?
It has to be fully healed. So typically it's about 2 weeks.
Gotcha. And then is that likely in the tattoo world? Does that mean they pay another deposit for the second session?
Well, a lot of times we'll just let you roll over the deposit from the first one because we don't take the deposit off the tattoo until the final session.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Okay. And then talk about maybe the process as as you're tattooing, do you have any kind of like, I guess, standard procedure, like order of operations that you do it in?
It just depends on the kind of tattoo you're getting. Like realism doesn't have an outline, so you don't really outline it. Some stuff you bloodline. Most tattoos, if they're just like a regular ass tattoo, you outline the whole thing and then you start shading it in, and you start from the darkest color and work your way to the lightest.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a top down or left right
No,
situation.
it's bottom right across to the top and darkest to lightest, because essentially if I tattooed yellow, your skin is open. So what I could do if I tattooed yellow first and then I want to tattoo black, I could wipe the black into the yellow, and then it's like I mix yellow and black and you get shitty muddy colors.
And any quality tattoo artist would know that, right? Like that's pretty much standard.
It's like, yeah, you learn that instantly.
Okay. You mentioned that you're at a tattoo convention. Is that an appropriate place for someone to go get a memorial tattoo?
It is. The only deal with tattoo conventions is you have to plan really far ahead. So like it's a good way to get a really high quality tattoo from somebody who's from out of state or another country that you couldn't travel to. But the thing is you have to find them ahead of time. And a lot of times they book out like months in advance for a convention.
So when they show up at the convention, they don't typically have open spots. Like they've already been promoting that they're going to be at this place and getting people to sign up. And
the good tattooers do that. They don't do walk-ups.
Gotcha. And is that Tattoo Do website that you mentioned, does that have conference or convention information on it? Or is there a different resource?
If it does have it on there. When I'm looking for convention, there's a website. It's like Tattoo Events Worldwide or something like that. And you can either search by region or by state, and it'll list all of the conventions that are coming.
Cool. I'll make sure to include those links in the show notes. But that brings up another good point, that you don't necessarily have to go to the tattoo artists that are just in your city, right? Like you can, if you're that motivated about it, you could travel to wherever they live, right? Or where their shop is.
I feel like if you're going to travel for anything, it might as well be a tattoo. You're supposed to wear it for the rest of your life. Like, get it done right. And if anything, if you're going to travel that far, like save up, turn it into like a mini vacation. Your tattoo artist, the one you really like, is in Miami. Tight. Go to Miami for 3 days before your appointment and party and do whatever, and then get your tattoo and then leave. Don't get the tattoo the first day you're there, because then you can't go swimming, or if you get drunk and you fuck it up. It should be one of the last things you do before you leave wherever the destination is.
Also, I remember when I got one of my tattoos that I had been like out drinking the night before. I wasn't hungover the next day, but I remember the artist was like, Whitney, you dumbass, why did you go drinking the night before? Now your like blood is thinned from the alcohol and you're going to bleed more basically while we're doing this tattoo. So that's a real thing? Like,
that's a thing. Yeah.
So don't go out that morning and have like Bloody Mary brunch.
No.
And show up for your afternoon tattoo appointment.
Go drinking after and treat it as a reward for getting the tattoo.
And what about people who are worried about the pain? Like, do you advise anybody to, take anything in advance?
No,
because you advise not to do that.
You can't take Tylenol. It's also like a blood thinner. You can take it maybe like midway or towards the end of the tattoo, but don't take it ahead of time. I mean, they're all going to hurt no matter what. It's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. You just have to decide how bad you want it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it only hurts once, right? I mean, the healing process is not, I wouldn't call it painful. If anything, it's irritating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's irritating.
Surround sound.
But even now, that part's not that bad because we have those new clear sticky bandages that stay on for days.
I know, that's fancy. After I got my tattoo on my leg, I remember there was a lot of gauze and saran wrap.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Like a car accident victim. Yeah, it was a little intense. All right. Is there anything else that, oh yeah, I remember now. Okay, so forms of payment. How do most tattooers get paid?
You just have to ask the tattooer. Most of us still like cash. Most of us will take card, but there are some of us who don't take card still.
Okay, so make sure you ask in advance, like when you're booking the appointment. If they didn't tell you, you should know that ahead of time. Yes. Okay, and then also very important, what's tipping like etiquette?
I mean, it is a service, so like at least 20%.
If your tattoo is going to be broken up into multiple sessions, do you tip after each session?
I think that's a nice thing to do.
Makes
I
sense.
mean, I do have some clients who do it at the end, but I think the tipping after each session is just a nice thing. Even if it's like, I don't expect you to tip on the full amount of the tattoo. I expect you to tip on whatever it is we did that day.
And then as far as care goes, so you mentioned there's probably maybe people didn't really understand what we were talking about, but explain about the aftercare for a tattoo.
Aftercare is dependent on the artist, but most of us these days have this stuff. It's either called second skin or Sanoderm or tattoo derm. It's like a clear, sticky bandage that we put on, and it's waterproof, but you can't like take a bath or shower, or you can take a shower, but you can't take a bath or soak it. And then you leave it on for 3 to 5 days, and then you peel it off really slowly in the shower, and it makes the healing process of tattoos so much better because there's no leaking on your sheets anymore. You don't even have to do anything to it for the first 5 days. And then when you take it off, it's almost like basically healed. So
And then, so when you take it off, there is no, like, there's no lotions or,
you just wash it, you keep it clean, put a little bit of lotion on it so it's not itchy. The lotion doesn't help your tattoo. It makes it so it's not itchy and so you don't scratch it.
Right. Because basically it's like the top layer, I guess, of your skin got scratched off. So as it's healing, should there be like any heavy scabbing?
No, if it's healing nicely, it's gonna like peel and flake kind of. There shouldn't be any like heavy scabbing. I mean, it does happen, but most tattooers, we guarantee our tattoo. So like me personally, if you come in within a year of getting the tattoo, you get a free touch up.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't put that in your marketing materials after I got my hummingbird.
You can have one whenever.
Speaking of having tattoos whenever, you did one other one for me that I actually don't even remember. Oh yeah, I do.
The stupid triangle.
Yeah, it was a year ago.
I forgot about the triangle.
It was actually a year ago this month. It'll be the end of this month. You came to visit, and I like to call it my kitchen tattoo because you just brought your equipment and did it in the like kitchen at my house. We sat
Yeah,
down
I
at the
don't.
table.
Just to clarify, people, Whitney is the only person I'm tattooing in a fucking kitchen for. Like
You
no
shouldn't
one
be getting
else.
tattooed in a kitchen
No,
by
that
any
should
means.
never be happening.
And it was
just
not an
one-time
intense
deal.
tattoo. It was a tiny little like dainty even. And I think you call it, the fucking triangle tattoo because triangles just aren't fun, I'm assuming, to
Well,
tattoo
it's
for like
a
the
bunch of
lines.
straight lines. They're stressful, if anything.
And not only did I want a triangle, but I wanted like two triangles, I guess, inverted from each other that touched like tip to tip. And for me, the top one is outlined with a clear or empty center, and the bottom one is like
Negative space. Negative
Yeah,
space.
I know. Yeah, right. Like art, negative space. And the bottom one is filled in with a gray shading, and it's representative of like the triangle above is the other side, the other plane, and spirituality, and the grayed in one is representative of the world down here and kind of all the things that we are bogged down in versus the clarity that comes from above. And the reason the two touch at tip to tip is because that's really the point where I would like to exist, is between where the muck meets the clarity.
Deep and poetic, Whitney.
Yeah, it was. Well, and tattoos can have that. They can have deep and poetic
totally
meanings.
Can.
And they can be ridiculous, peanut butter and jelly jars between you and your sister. So
yep,
there's room for all of it in the tattoo world, right? And your meaning doesn't have to make sense to your tattoo artist as long as they can understand
exactly
what you want them to tattoo on you. Something that's, I think that's the most important thing. Your tattoo is something that's for you. So if you love portraits, get a damn portrait. If you want, a hummingbird, get a hummingbird. Whatever it is that you want. Popular trends are like the heartbeat, symbol, like that matches what their actual heartbeat monitor was. And I feel like you see a lot of baby footprints is really popular one. And so, yeah, do whatever you want, but primarily just above all, make sure you go to a quality artist, because you don't want to look at something that you got with the intention of it reminding you of your child or your deceased loved one. And instead it makes you think all the time about how the lines are off
Right.
or the tattoo artist was a jerk, or you didn't want to touch anything in the shop because it was filthy everywhere.
Well, that's
right.
the other thing. Arizona especially, be really picky. Tattoo shops are not regulated by the government. The public health department doesn't. Last time I checked, there is no tattoo license. They're not inspecting tattoo shops in Arizona. It's not a thing.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you know, are we like one of the few states that don't have it? Is that common
I
in most
don't
states?
know. I don't know how. No, like California, we have to have a license. They come and they check the shops. Like Oregon, wild tattoo laws. Like it's hard to get a tattoo license there. Missouri, you have to have a special tattoo license. Arizona, no tattoo license, nothing.
And so then I'm assuming that those same like laws or rules apply to the conventions that are being held in those different states. Like that's something you should be aware of if you're traveling. If you're traveling out of state, don't just assume that whatever the standards of cleanliness and licensing are where you live are going to be the same wherever you're going.
Right.
What about internationally? I know you've tattooed over in Europe and stuff. What's it like over there? If somebody
That just depends on the country, but like the tattoo conventions, you have to turn in paperwork.
what
That's
kind of
like
paperwork?
It just depends. Like we have to have a bloodborne pathogen, so we have to take a class every year about like cross contamination, viruses, exposure plans,
The artist
things like
does.
that. Yeah.
Gotcha. But the person getting the tattoo has to in like conventions in
No,
other
they
countries?
just generally have to sign a waiver. So
Gotcha. Cool. Good to know. Is that something that somebody should be asking a tattoo artist? Like, are you trained in blood pathogens?
I mean, if they're a legitimate tattoo artist, they should have one. But I guess you kind of just have to be aware, because you can take the class and still be shitty about it. Like you could be the person who like wipes somebody down with a paper towel and then puts the paper towel on the counter. Or I saw a video the other day of this guy wiping fresh tattoos off this family. They all got the same tattoo. He used the same paper towel on everyone. He went down the line and wiped everyone off with the same fucking tattoo. So some hepatitis for you, some hepatitis for you, and you get some hepatitis. It's disgusting.
What do you even do if you're in that situation? Like
fucking panic? I don't know.
Jump up and scream?
Yeah, be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Wow. That's wild. All right. Well, is there anything else that I didn't ask about that a novice, never had a tattoo person should know?
No, just do your research. Be confident. If you don't like something, speak up. If the tattooer acts like you hurt their feelings, they can fuck off. Go find a different tattooer.
Yeah, they should be professionals, right? We're not here to be friends. We're here to get professional services.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Can you tell the audience where they can find you if they want to learn more about your services or see what your tattoos are like?
Instagram is probably the best place to find me. It's I am Huka. So it's IAMHUKA.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Huka, for coming on the show. And I appreciate all of your professional insight and our little trip down memory lane.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye, Whit.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Selfish Griever podcast. If you've been considering getting a memorial tattoo, then I hope this information helped you so you can get the best one possible. If you already have a memorial tattoo, come over to Instagram at the Selfish Griever and send me a message with the picture of your art. I'd love to see the way you're honoring your loved one. Next week, I'm going to have a grieving mom on to discuss signs and spirituality since her son passed away. And as always, if you have time to leave me a rating and a review, it takes just 10 seconds, but it makes a world of difference for me. Thank you, and have a great day. We'll see you next week.